Jeroen, don't make your swimming pool too small. We are trained to show the world our successes. We were almost bankrupt in 2016.
Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of The Sound of Sales. Some people decide that an MBA should be followed under university, others start their business at 18. Enjoy this episode about growth and challenging yourself. To the people that don't know Jeroen Poels, if I would ask your friends, what does Jeroen do for a living? Don't pitch it, just what does Jeroen do for a living? And I ask somebody that, of course, is not your best friend, but if I ask one of your friends.
That he pimps students.
He pimps students. I've never heard that one. Can you explain what you do with pimping students?
Yeah, so I founded a staffing agency for students now almost 10 years ago. So basically, we recruit and employ students, and then we rent them out to other companies. So just classical staffing, but with a focus on the student market.
Yep. Yeah. And how many students have you pimped so far?
We have helped, I think, over 35,000 students so far.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Big. That's
Yeah.
a big number. And that's mostly Flanders, Antwerp based, Ghent based. Where are you?
Yeah, we're super domestic, so focused on Belgium and then more specific Flanders and Brussels.
Crazy. Cool.
Yeah.
Congrats on that. That's a big number. 10 years. Is a party coming up?
Sorry?
Is there a party coming up?
A party? Yeah. I hope so, at least if the pandemic allows us to throw a party. But the idea is to organize something later this year. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Congrats on that. And 10 years, how old are you right now?
27.
27.
So I'm turning 28 in a couple of months. So I started when I was 18.
Crazy. And how did it start? What's your journey like? But take me back to the very, very, very beginning.
Well, the very, very beginning even starts earlier than my 18s. I was 15 years old when I started working, and one of my cousins was working at that time in an event hall or an event space, and he was the head waiter there. And I have a younger brother but no older brothers, so my cousins were a little bit like the equivalent of having an older brother. And so I said already very early that I wanted to start working as well. Obviously, I was in high school at that moment, and I started doing dishes in that event space. And then at a certain moment, I became the head waiter because my cousin he finished his university degree. And then I was 16 years old, and then I said to the owner of the event space, listen, I want to be the head waiter, but I also want to start organizing the staff because I don't really think that you're managing the HR very well.
Wait, how old was the other person?
I was way over 50, maybe even 60 years old. So, and he was crazy enough to actually allow me to get that responsibility. And then I started organizing the events there and also organizing the staff. And basically it was just me and my friends working instead of going out and drinking beer or anything else. And then at some point, more and more friends and people that I know started to ask if I could help them with a cool student job. And then I thought, listen, what I'm doing right now for my friends and peers, I can maybe do it for way more people than I could imagine at that moment. And that's when I decided to found DeltaWorx and make it a staffing agency for students.
Great. That's a nice journey. So actually, this guy, the 50-year-old dude 10 years ago, what would you have become if he said like, 16-year-old Jeroen, screw you, get out of here?
I don't know, like, you know what you also need to know is that at some point, like he was also looking for a successor of his company. So I think he sort of gave me that opportunity also with the idea that maybe one day I would take over his business, which I thought about for a very long time. And then thanks to a friend in common of us, Ariel, then she said once to me, I was 18 years old at that moment, she said to me like, Jeroen, don't make your swimming pool too small. Or otherwise, don't make your playing field too small. So she thought already at that moment that owning or taking over an event space wouldn't be...
It didn't match who you were.
For what I was, or possibly
set,
capable.
But you were set to become, basically, right?
So originally I started doing that with the idea of owning an event space and organizing events, and then all of a sudden you're running a staffing agency, and 10 years later you've employed tens of thousands of students.
Yeah, indeed. Do you believe that that everything happens for a reason?
It's very cliche, but I guess so. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, we have with other podcast guests, we always touch a little bit of like, do you believe that where you are now is actually something that you were in control of, that was actually already set in stone, basically?
But can we say that those things are both equally the same thing? Because if it's set in stone, then it means that you had that you have an involvement in getting or being where you are today, or in the journey at least. Like I'm not someone that believes in luck, but I do believe in the power of if you work hard and do the right things and make sure that you deliver what you promise, that you create your own opportunities in time, and like maybe the first takeover or something, or your first client that you want to sign, that could be or might be maybe a little bit of luck, but then if you don't deliver, then it would just stay with that one entry ticket instead of opening more doors and more doors and more doors.
No, I see what you mean.
And I honestly want to believe that it's that, because if it's not, then it's something unexplainable. And the moment it's something unexplainable, it's also something you cannot repeat. So I strongly believe in if we talk about success in general, it's something that people that are successful are living by some sort of mantras and ways of thinking and ways of doing stuff that are just being proven to be successful. And if you keep repeating the same those same things, and it will also create more and more opportunities and more success.
It's basically a flywheel that you push in motion, and that is meant to.
Proper English to say the flywheel effect. Doesn't really
I think it's a word that we use sometimes.
In Dutch, of course, we would say
Yeah, but I've seen it in English as well, so people will understand what it is. But I remember the first time that I met Ariel, it was through you. And the first thing she said to me is, "Do you believe that you are here because of your own choice, or because this was planned for you to happen?"
Oh, nice. Yeah, maybe for the people that are watching, like Ariel is our business coach. So interesting to give us a little side note.
Indeed.
Yeah. So.
How did you? I can imagine in 10 years. In every episode, what we tackle a little bit is how people handle newcomers and like early graduates within their organization and that sort of stuff. Now with you, it's not only within your organization, but it's also the people you employ, basically. So how did you see it evolve in 10 years? Like, were people 10 years ago already like with the mindset of, if I do this, then the next thing I want to achieve is that? Or how did you see that evolve?
Interesting question. Funny as well. I was doing an interview this morning on for Belgian television, and we were talking about the changes we're seeing in how employers are treating or working with their employees during the pandemic that we are having right now, and with the home working stuff, and how do you keep your team in place. And then I said at some point, like, what we need to understand is that our job markets and the way people look to employment has been changing already for 10 years. And the nice thing about my business is, like, we've been working for 10 years with that Generation Z. So we've seen those changes with front row access. And what we all need to understand is, where 10 years ago and prior to that, certainly, is that we as employers were always in the driver's seat of everything. We decided what who we would give the jobs, who would decide the salaries, we would decide we would decide basically anything, and it would be the employee just someone just had to be happy with the offer they got. Yep. Where today things totally changed. We're living in a candidate-driven market. Maybe interesting to say as well is that besides DeltaWorx, a staffing agency, I also run a recruitment agency that is focused on tech people, and then even more specific within BI and data profiles. So we're also in the professional market active, and you just see it everywhere. We're living in a candidate-driven market, so it means that we as employers need to really understand what ticks. Why do they want to change? Why do they want to work somewhere? And it's more than just job descriptions and salaries. And I think those are massive changes that we've experienced over the last 10 years. And I think it's I think this is just a new way of how work is being organized, and I strongly believe it's a good evolution as well.
I see it firsthand as well, that in the beginning people were like, yeah, I want this is a car that I want, and then I want to earn this much money, and then that's where we are right now. And then if I look back to when I first started working for someone, it was like, here is a contract and you're going to earn this much money, and the car will come after 1 year if you good behave. And and I still remember my parents saying like, oh, this is a good offer. And if I look back now, it was like half of what people starters are now asking straight from the school bench, basically. And if you think about it, it's not even that long ago. It's a massive shift.
No, not at all. And also, like, it's an entire generation who is just they're looking different towards a job, but they're looking different towards a lot of things in life. And for most of it, I'm very, very happy that change is there with it, because it means that they're living a more conscious life, I think, than people were maybe 20 or 30 years ago. So I'm quite happy with the evolution. However, it doesn't make it more easy, of course, to find good people, especially today.
Yeah. But I guess you have a sense of more sense of achievement with these people, because they appreciate if you work with them and you pimp them in a way that is fortunate for them. I guess you have more fulfillment. That's the word that I was looking for.
I totally agree. You know, like, a lot of people come to me and they say, like, they lack loyalty nowadays. And I don't think that's the problem. I don't think they lack loyalty. I think they just put themselves first, where years ago it was always the company first. But that's not something that we should be sad of course. I think everyone just wants to have people working for them, for their companies, and being extremely happy to be there and believing in what they're selling or believing in what they're doing, instead of just someone coming to work, doing their hours and leaving again.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Because then they will eventually, it will become a routine, and you don't want routine as people, I guess.
Exactly.
And how conscious do you live as a person, as a CEO?
Unfortunately, sometimes too conscious, because
Okay, explain.
honestly, ignorance is a bliss sometimes. No, I mean, like, we touched it already a little bit, but I've been going to coaches and business coaches already for a very long time, maybe already from before I started the company. So I've always put a lot of effort in also working on my own soft skills and searching for or to be a better employer or being a better manager. So that means that you're forced to be very conscious about everything you're doing, and being conscious doesn't necessarily mean that you're also capable. Let's say that most of the time I'm conscious about the facts or about the things that I'm not doing well, which is also frustrating, or can be frustrating.
Yeah. Isn't that a downward spiral sometimes?
Well, not if you have the intention of doing better.
Yeah, improvement.
Yeah, I think the start is being conscious about the fact that you're not, about the things and the fact that you're not doing well, and then promising yourself or searching or looking for solutions to do it better. Yeah.
And how do you tackle the process of evolving your soft skills, for example? Like, do you have ways that you school yourself? Do you keep doing that? Do you read a lot of books, for example? Or how do you tackle that process?
I try to listen to books. I'm not a huge reader, except when I'm on holidays and I have the time to read. But like audiobooks and stuff, of course. As I said, I'm doing a lot of coaching during the year, and what I also try to do is just surround myself with people that are extremely intelligent and that fill gaps where I think they need to be filled, both within the company but also on a more higher level, like in a board environment, or in an advisory board environment, or as you said already earlier, in groups that of people where we talk about business and stuff, all with the idea that with a little bit of luck they can make me smarter as well. Yeah.
For the listeners don't know this, and we said it a little bit in the beginning. So must have been it's a year ago, right? That I texted you on Instagram. Let's bring up the story, what we have done. So basically, I texted a few entrepreneurs that I said, like, okay, we're about the same age, we're in different industries, we're in different levels of company building. Let's group up and share our griefs, basically, our challenges that we are seeing. It was mainly this was second lockdown. This was lockdown period, right? What did it do for you to surround yourself with entrepreneurs of basically of all sorts? I think we are a very mixed group.
Yeah. What I love about our group is that we are all young, all entrepreneurs and founders, which I found also pretty important, and that we're not in competing markets. So I think there are a couple of key factors that make the group successful. because it gives a very safe or a safe environment where you're really able to just discuss anything. So there is a lot of trust between one another. And you would be surprised, like, in how detailed we discuss things, and things that are not supposed to be discussed in the outside world, failures, but also contracts or investment opportunities, basically anything. And what I've always been searching for is like-minded people, and people that understand also the burden that you carry as an entrepreneur, or as a CEO, as a founder, because like we are trained, and we are trained to show the world our successes, but for every success you maybe have a dozen failures to get there, and there are not a lot of people that truly understand the road to that success, or even if you're not being very successful, then it's even more shitty, because then you're getting fail after fail after fail, and also just sharing experiences, and it doesn't really matter in what kind of business you are, but a couple of key things are in every business the same. How do you treat your staff? How do you cope with your hiring process? How do you set up your sales strategy or marketing plan? Or what tools do you use if you want to start doing your digital marketing, or like the basic things are for a lot of people the same, and it's really nice to just share experiences, and it saves you also a lot of time, because then you just get very quick action points. And then the last thing that I find very interesting is, like, we always talk in challenges. So we come together and then we say, okay, who has a challenge? You speak out your challenge. You get input from the rest of the group, but then we also try to get your challenge into an action, and we follow up on that action. And that's something that I find very, very nice as well. So you cannot slack, like 4 months later or 3 months later, when the group comes back together, you're like already weeks in advance, shit, like I had 3 action points, I didn't do it, or I did do it. And then you guys, you follow up on the action points. So I think it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think for most people in the group, I think for all of them, it's also an eye-opener because you're always minding your own business, right? Everybody is like, I'm building my business, I cannot share it with someone because what if they steal my idea? But that's what you said, we're all in different businesses. But breeding sometimes, right? Like breeding, sharing, even if nobody can help, what I've found is, even if you share something like, oh, this is going difficult, and you get some people like, you're not alone, you're not taking it alone. I think that was one of the main drivers of setting it up as well.
Exactly.
Do you sometimes, because I can imagine, like, we're doing this on this level, but I can imagine even setting employees together in an informal way, or even your pimped students. Do you do things like that with employees or other groups that you're part of?
Well, we try obviously to also get people to talk about their challenges in the office as much as possible, and as informal as possible as well. We don't wait for your 2-yearly
review
or review with your manager to address issues or to address challenges. So I think that's something that a lot of companies already do today. We do weekly stand-ups, sometimes even daily stand-ups if we're in very busy times, to express, okay, what are we going to do today? What are your goals for the day, the goals for the week, the goals for the month? How are we doing? and also asking questions like, and what's the challenge? What's going difficult? And I think what I find important is, and it's what a good coach would do, and it's what good friends would do, but it's also what a good manager would do, is just ask enough questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you make sure that these people are also like, comfortable in the situation, and make sure they open up to their boss? Because essentially, like, you can be a friend to people, but for them, you're still the boss as well. Yeah. How do you manage that situation? Because on some other episodes, we found like that's the most difficult part.
It is. And what I, when in the beginning of, when I founded DeltaWorx, we truly were a group of friends, the full-time staff. And there was basically no hierarchy, and it was extremely friendly how we work together. But the moment you start growing, we're talking growing in team size, but also growing in investment size, but also growing in people, in revenue, in risks. So your organization at some point becomes just, like in Dutch they say, I'm going to translate it literally, small children, small problems, big children or big problems. I don't know if there is a saying in English that says the same thing, but it honestly is like the bigger it becomes, the higher the risks. And you could say that there would be more stability if you're bigger, but then again, the stakes are higher the moment you grow. And I really had to face the fact that you cannot be everyone's friend, but you're also not supposed to be everyone's friend. So today I'm in the office and I'm the founder and I'm the CEO and I'm the captain of the ship and I make the decisions, obviously together with my management team. And I have some people where my connection is more on a personal level, other people less. But I also I also found out that people are not necessarily they don't all feel comfortable talking to the founder or the CEO, and it was a hard lesson for me to accept as well that it's just the case, and I shouldn't feel sorry about that either. It's just the way how things work. So at that moment, I realized, okay, so that means I need a management team, or at least go-to people in the company that do have that positive effect and that gentle approach and that friendly face, and that can create that safe environment for the other employee to discuss problems that are at that moment necessary to talk about, and then not in a boss-employee relationship, but just on a more peer level.
Yeah. What did it do with you to step aside from that?
Continuously failure in trying to establish a place where I would still be in charge of also those things. And then at some point you just need to face the fact that it's just never going to work that way.
Yeah, indeed. But I can imagine that it's the first few times that you notice, like, is it me failing, or this is just nature of a growing business?
No, but it's always you failing. Because
is it that harsh? Is it that harsh?
No, but in a way it is, because a company that's growing means that, let's say that I would be almighty and all-knowing, then I would at some point just say, okay, we're too big now for me to keep doing this stuff. I need to find someone else to start doing that. And then you would not face the problem because you're almighty and all-knowing, and then things just, but obviously it's not the case, like you make mistakes, and making a mistake or failing is, But there's nothing wrong with failing. For me, the word fail stands for first attempt in learning. It's not a bad thing to fail. On the contrary, it's basically it's an amazing thing to do, because I learn the lessons that I learned from failing were far more interesting than from success. Most of the times you're successful and you don't even understand why that thing was a success. But the moment something fails, you damn sure are gonna find out why something failed.
Yeah, and the next time you will quite good understand what situation is and how to tackle it.
Exactly.
And if you look back to your 10 years, what other first attempts in learning have you discovered that sometimes you are reminded of?
Well, I made a lot of bad mistakes, as we all do, or as we all did, I imagine. I don't even know where to start. Well, for me, the journey from starting really, really young when I was 18, and then building a team, and then also managing the team was a very, very big challenge. And because of my personality, number one, but also because of the fact that I was young, and so I think that was an interesting journey. Where a couple of years ago, I didn't really feel comfortable in the position as a CEO, and not necessarily as an entrepreneur. I've always felt comfortable, but as a manager, less. Now, obviously, it's different. I feel way more comfortable. But yeah, what do you want to hear? You want to hear a list of
No, but there must be a few things that spring to mind when you think about,
well, we were almost bankrupt in 2016, so that's a pretty big fail.
I think we should now continue on that one, because we have a lot of people listening that are first-time entrepreneurs, or that are growing their business. At some point, people will think, "Now I'm going bankrupt." What did you do?
Yeah, I was. It was really, really bad. Like, I think I lost 10 years of my life in that year. Just to summarize the problem that we had at that moment, like we tripled our turnover that year. We also switched systems, and we opened 3 offices that year, and we also bought a company in Portugal. So you can already hear me coming. Like, the money was flowing in, but it was also at a pace a bit higher than the inflow, also flowing out again. So so basically, due to very poor and bad cash flow management, which is obviously my mistake, and an accountant that wasn't really fit for scale-up companies, which obviously was also my mistake, because I should have thought about that as well. But anyways, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where you have more debts than cash flow to fix it. And that was very scary.
Yeah, I can imagine. How long was the time period that was in the back of your mind, or maybe the front of your mind?
Well, let's say that for the entire year 2015, when you triple your revenue and you're opening offices at a speed and you're growing, you're extremely. I thought I was the king of Flanders. I felt like I was flying. I wasn't conscious at that moment. And success also does something with someone. And you see the money flowing in, and then and I've never enriched myself in that period. I always had the idea that every euro that we would make, that we would invest it again in the company, and even double invest it if possible. But but so let's say 2015 was an amazing year in terms of growth, and then you end the year. You take a well-deserved holiday during Christmas and New Year's, and then you come back in January to the office, and then you realize that you actually have hundreds of thousands of euros in debt at places where you don't want to have debt at all. And they started to come and get the money basically. So I think the entire duration of the problem maybe took between 6 and 12 months. Although we fixed the biggest issues in the first 4 to 5 months, but the uncertain, very very uncertain time took 4 to 5 months, something, yeah. Which is already it's a long time, 5 months.
Yeah, that must have done something with you at that period.
Yeah, I didn't sleep anymore. I didn't eat. Yeah, it was very very
wow.
Yeah, not so satisfying.
Is it still something in the back of your mind when you make investments?
Yeah, I think I became more careful.
Yeah.
Which is questionable whether it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, the level of how careful you are, is it right? You can be careful and still make an investment, or you can be like...
Exactly. You know what we see it also in the years after that. So 2016 was a very challenging year, but we fixed it, and that's also why I'm very open about it to discuss it. Like it's almost it's a heroic story in a way, because we shouldn't have survived it. It was really, really bad, but we did. Like we found solutions. But then you see in the years that follow, 2017, 2018, those were years with very little growth, and we were used to doubling and tripling our annual revenues. And then you saw 2017, 2018, even 2019 for a part that the annual growth was no more than 20%, 10%, 15%, even a year only 8%. So you really felt it, that the company was in how do you say it? Like we had we were driving, but we had our emergency brake on as well. Yeah. Because you're so anxious about getting back into that same situation as a couple of years back.
Yeah, understandable, of course, understandable. Yeah.
But that's also a personal that has also been personal process for me. And then at some point you just switch, and then you try to connect again with the let's say the entrepreneurial spirit inside of you to just say, okay, listen, you've survived, you're okay, the company is doing well. And now it's time to put the pedal to the metal again.
What is your ambition for the next 10 years of DeltaWorx?
It's a funny question. If you would have asked me last year, like what my goal would be or anything, and I would say a listing on in the Forbes under 30, but that's
check.
That honor. Yeah, that honor I received earlier this year, of at least last year, which is was really crazy as well. But like we even though people might think that student staffing in the pandemic was not a good combination, we actually did really well. So we doubled our revenue in 2000. Or last year compared to the end of 19. So we are growing in terms of team. We're also looking at some takeovers in the Belgian market and also trying to raise our B series. So I think the next 5 years will be growth, and trying to achieve the goals in terms of market share in Flanders and in Brussels, and maybe in a couple of years' time also move to the French part of Belgium. Yeah.
Yeah, because currently all of your revenue, all of your focus is the Flemish part. So do you still have the three
Brussels as
offices?
well.
And Brussels, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we basically have 7 offices, Antwerp, Brussels, Ghent, Leuven, Brugge, Kortrijk, and Hasselt.
Okay, so you still made the investments regarding the offices.
Well, we don't have like physical owned offices in every city because it's just not necessary. But so part of we have some physical offices, and we also have some what we call our digital offices in other cities. Yeah.
Yeah. I still remember when I was a student, I went to the Ghent DeltaWorx office one time and I was like, what is DeltaWorx?
Nice.
And now I see it every time I'm in Ghent. I'm like, this guy. It's very nice what you have built, Jeroen. That's not your Forbes listing is very well deserved, I would say. 10 years straight from school. Do you have a diploma actually?
No.
Then dropout. Did you try, or you were like?
I'm the textbook dropout, perfect case. I finished high school and then I started doing a college degree, and then I also founded the company at the same time. And then at some point I just decided to stop. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say to people listening, starting their startup?
Mm-hmm.
Would you say keep on the school banks, keep your ass sit down, because the world has changed, of course, in the last 10 years? Would you recommend it? Because basically you took a personal MBA, if I call it that way.
Yeah, and it was more. It was not as cost efficient as just taking as going to the best school in the world to do an MBA. I think that would be less expensive than my 10 years. If I would count all the mistakes and the money related losses. No, listen, I think in a lot of countries, and especially in Belgium, there are great opportunities and great solutions for combining your study with owning your own business or founding your own business. And that was something that was not there when I was in college, unfortunately. However, what I find a little bit disturbing at the moment is that entrepreneurship, and
it's coming.
And I'm saying again, the reference for me is Belgium. But I think it's in a lot of places in the world. So the stigma and the almost heroic superhero idea around being an entrepreneur is also something that's very scary and dangerous. This life is not made for everyone, and thank God it's not made for everyone. And that doesn't mean that you can also be extremely entrepreneurial without being an entrepreneur. And for me, those are two complete different things. So if you're watching and you're like, I really, really want to be an entrepreneur, I mean, if you know it, then you know it, and then you just have to do it, and then fuck school if you're not getting the things out of it that you want, or if you find it uncombinable or anything. If you're having doubts, then I would say just continue your classes and make sure that you have that degree in the pocket, and then you can still found your company at any point in your life. At the other hand, I also find your student years one of the best years to found a company because you're in.
It's prime time.
Yeah, it's prime time. You're very willingly to take risks because you basically have nothing to lose when you're in that stage of your life. You have you're probably still or for a part or have the possibility to fall back to your parents or to other peers. You don't have a partner or a family or mortgages to pay or anything else. So at the same time, it's also an amazing. I always say, people say, oh, it's amazing, you were 18 and you started so young, and we think it's super cool. But then I say, yeah, but I might find it even more impressive, the guy or the girl that's 45 that leaves the golden cage job and then takes another mortgage on the house to invest in a new company with zero. So the stakes are higher, the risks are higher. And at that moment, you're not making decisions only for yourself. You're making decisions for your entire households, or your family, or your
indeed,
or your spouse.
That's a huge jump.
Yeah.
As a last question for you, if I give Jeroen today a billboard room, or I say like, hey Jeroen, here's the ring around Antwerp, and I have a billboard for you. What would you put on it, and why?
As a quote?
Anything.
Interesting. I have a couple of mantras that really that I try to live and breathe every day. One of them is, if you're not able to share, you're not able to multiply. And I think it's something that we're lacking in the world in general, but we're lacking it definitely in Belgium. It's the genuine being happy for others' successes, and also doing everything you can within your abilities to help other people is something that we are lacking. And that's also why, if people ask me, why do you do what you do, then I say I have 3 drivers. Number 1 is impact. It always has been and always will be. I want to have impact on as many people as possible. Number 2 is having fun, just having fun every day in what I do. And number 3 is money, earning money. And it's don't feel ashamed to have it on number 3. It won't be on number 1, but it is on number 3. Making money is one of the drivers. It's, if there is something that frustrates me sometimes, it's the lack of genuine happiness for other success. And I think that would be something that if I would die tomorrow and you would ask, what does Jeroen want to be remembered for, then maybe it would be then it would be that, or at least that way of life that I try to live.
Yeah, that's a nice way of saying it as well. It's they always say sharing is caring, but I don't think people share enough.
No, and I honestly believe that if you're able to share, you will multiply. So you can also do it a little bit from a more selfish idea. There is nothing wrong with that, and that's the reason.
This will come back to me.
It will come back to you, and that's the thing. Huh? At some point, it will come back to you if we start doing it with a lot of people.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
There's the power of a network, for example. Sometimes there are these moments that you are, for example, on a LinkedIn, on a social platform, and that you think like, I have a network of X thousand people, but actually sometimes it doesn't feel like a network. It feels like, it is what it is.
People keeping an eye on you. No, I think maybe to end with a kind of sales-related topic is, as you said, the power of network. And it's something that I've been... if something would be like the basis of everything that I've built so far, I think it's network. the ability to pick up your phone and just call anyone within your field of work or within Belgium that has something significant to say or that you need from. I think that's extremely powerful, and you can only establish that kind of network if you also give back at some point.
Yeah, true.
So I think it's a great example. People sometimes ask me, "Wow, you know so many people. You know so many people." It's because but I don't call to only get. I also call to give.
If I look back to last summer, you gave me a call in the weekend I thought, and it was like, "Hey Bram, how are you doing?" It's printed in my mind because that was a moment when I realized like, this is what sharing. It's not sharing; it's caring. What it is. And then I told you as well, like I didn't expect this phone call. Because people are not used to that type of connections or whatever you call it. So I experienced firsthand what you mean with this saying or with your billboard.
Yeah,
quote,
and also just be genuine about the things you do. Don't do things because you think you have to do them. Don't be fake. Just be authentic. Be yourself. Try to be a nice person. And even in business, I strongly believe in business ethics. Strongly believe. And it might not make me the richest man on the planet for those ethics, but it does help me to sleep better at night.
And that's very important.
And that's also valuable, exactly.
Yep. Well, Jeroen, we didn't touch the sales subject, but I think this was a super interesting conversation about how you can grow a business and build resilience in what you're doing. So thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.